April 28, 1988. A Boeing 737 is flying peacefully over Hawaii when suddenly, with a deafening roar, the roof of the plane rips open mid-air. Passengers are exposed to the sky at 24,000 feet, and the aircraft is falling apart, but the pilots still try to land it. What happened to Aloha Airlines Flight 243? And how did it become one of the most shocking survival stories in aviation history? Subscribe for more real-life air crash investigations every single day. Flight 243 was a short 35-minute journey between Hilo and Honolulu in Hawaii. The aircraft was a Boeing 737-200, over 19 years old, and had made nearly 90,000 takeoffs and landings. On board were 89 passengers and 6 crew members. Most were tourists excited to fly between the islands. The plane had gone through thousands of short trips over its lifetime, many in salty, humid island air conditions that silently wore it down. As the flight climbed to 24,000 feet, everything seemed normal. The passengers chatted and relaxed. But then, 23 minutes after takeoff, disaster struck. With a violent explosion, a huge part of the fuselage, from above the cockpit to the wings, tore off. A sudden blast of wind rushed through the cabin, sucking out debris, insulation, and, tragically, flight attendant Clarabelle Lansing. She was standing near the front and was pulled out instantly. Her body was never found. The passengers were now sitting in rows fully exposed to the sky, with only their seatbelts keeping them from being thrown out. Oxygen masks didn't deploy, as the system had been destroyed in the explosion. Screams and howling wind filled the cabin. Panic gripped everyone. In the cockpit, Captain Robert Schornstheimer and First Officer Mimi Tompkins were thrown into chaos. Their headset cables were ripped out. They couldn't hear each other, but they stayed calm. The first officer took control of the plane, while the captain handled emergency procedures. They quickly descended to a safer altitude to allow passengers and crew to breathe. But flying the aircraft was incredibly difficult. The frame was damaged, parts of the roof and side were missing, and the controls felt different. Amazingly, the landing gear still worked, and they aimed for Kaului Airport on Maui, the nearest runway. But they had no idea how much longer the plane would stay in the air. As the aircraft approached the runway, things got worse. The nose gear didn't lock into place. The hydraulic systems were damaged. The whole aircraft was vibrating. The crew feared that landing might tear the plane apart. But there was no choice. The first officer carefully brought the plane down. The tires screeched as they hit the runway. The fuselage shook, but miraculously, the plane held together. Sparks flew as the nose gently dropped onto the runway, and the pilots brought the aircraft to a stop. It was an incredible achievement of skill and bravery. Every passenger, except flight attendant Lansing, survived. Many had injuries from flying debris and decompression, and 65 were taken to the hospital. But considering the severity of the event, it was a miracle. Investigators from the NTSB, National Transportation Safety Board, were shocked by the sight of the aircraft. A massive section of the upper fuselage was gone, as if the plane had been cut open with a knife. How did it stay in the air? The answer lay in metal fatigue. The aircraft had made almost 90,000 flight cycles, far more than most planes. Each takeoff and landing causes the metal to expand and contract, slowly weakening the structure. Over time, small cracks form. If not found and repaired, they grow. In Flight 243's case, a small crack had started near a rivet in the fuselage. The aircraft's design used overlapping panels, called a lap joint, and in this design, the crack was hard to detect. Add in the Hawaiian environment, salty sea air and constant short-haul flights, and corrosion worked with the fatigue to destroy the metal from the inside. The explosion was a sudden chain reaction, a small crack ripping open dozens of connected panels in an instant. Just weeks before the accident, passengers and crew had reported strange sounds and rattling near the roof. Mechanics even found a crack and made some repairs. But the inspections weren't thorough enough, and no one realized how bad the damage really was. Aloha Airlines was under pressure to keep planes flying. With such short flights, the aircraft was often in the air all day. Inspectors sometimes skipped steps. One key engineer even warned that fatigue cracks could be a danger, but his concerns were ignored. After the crash, the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, ordered emergency inspections of all older 737s. Airlines worldwide were told to look for hidden cracks in lap joints and other vulnerable spots. The story of Flight 243 is one of both horror and heroism. Flight attendant Clarabelle Lansing is remembered as a hero. She stayed at her post, helping passengers just moments before the roof ripped open. She was the only fatality. Captain Schornstheimer and First Officer Tompkins were praised worldwide for their calm actions. They landed a torn-apart plane without working radios, with a destroyed airframe, and without panicking. The FAA introduced tougher inspection rules. Boeing modified the design of future aircraft to prevent similar structural failures. And airlines became more aware of how damaging many short flights could be to airframes. Even more importantly, this event changed how aviation views metal fatigue. Engineers now build planes with better materials, use advanced scanning tech to spot cracks, and check high-risk areas more often. Aloha Airlines Flight 243 was one of the most terrifying accidents in aviation history, but also one of the most miraculous. A plane literally came apart in the sky and still landed safely. It showed the importance of good maintenance, quick thinking, and the incredible skills of trained pilots. And above all, it reminded the world that even small, hidden dangers, like a tiny crack in the fuselage, can turn into disasters. But through smart changes, aviation became safer because of what happened that day.